Hello and welcome back to the Real Estate Agent School podcast. We are going to have an incredible guest today. We have Matt Cavanaugh on with us. He is a team lead, a real estate investor with over 1,000 homes sold, and he is the founder of the Freedom Chaser podcast. And we are super pumped to have you on. Matt, thanks for joining us.
Thanks. It's an honor to be on.
Okay, well, first off, I just want to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you, and we'll jump into the episode.
Cool. Well, I am the host of the Freedom Chasers podcast. I have a co-host, Tim Winfrey Jr., that does a lot of things in the background. He's been on a lot of episodes with me as well. We inspire real estate agents to take actions towards to be an investor, to grow their freedom, as well as help real estate agents scale their businesses. So I'm a real estate agent. I run a team. We invest across the country, but our main passion right now is the Freedom Chasers podcast.
Phenomenal. That's exciting. And so with your investment team podcast, what is some of the main focuses that you're currently trying to educate on, talk on? What are kind of your bread and butter topics?
So investing is the core element. And for me, my favorite thing to talk about is human psychology mindset. Because as you know, there's no shortage of information on how to be successful out there. There's no shortage of strategy. It's just, what do I as a person need to shift about my approach or my mindset to get the results from these strategies to be successful? So we talk a lot about strategies, but more importantly, we talk about mindset and who do we need to become for those strategies to work.
That's amazing. I think as a real estate agent, becoming an investor is a mindset shift where taking your active income and putting it into assets that can give you passive income is really probably the main goal of every single real estate agent. They think, okay, I'm going to get into real estate so I can make a grip ton of money and then buy rentals. And it's like, okay, that's great, but there are some serious steps in between there. And so tell me a little bit about your journey, how you started, what you did up until now, and kind of where you're at.
Yeah, so I started in real estate in 2015 when I left my job. I'd done just a little bit before that, but I had 8 in escrow in early 2015, and I left my job, took off as an agent, and then later on in 2018 is when I re-entered the investing space. And it was 5 transactions later that I had enough rental income to where I could choose whether or not I wanted to work. Wouldn't have been a great existence, but it would have been an existence nonetheless. So that's really what opened my mind to investing. And as I started to acquire some units, it was like, wait, I get to choose a little bit more about what I do, how I do it. And that's essentially what led to the podcast. Having conversations like this is an absolute passion of mine.
Yeah, it's a blast. I love connecting with like-minded people, and that's why we do this type of stuff, is to really just because we enjoy it, but also to help other people. Because if you can get to the point where you can wake up and say, hey, I could totally not work today and I would be totally fine. That's a good feeling, you know? And so tell me a little bit about the assets you invest in, what you teach agents to invest in. What is kind of your main focuses?
So we like to expose agents to all the different types of investments so that they can choose what's right for their personality. For me, I want to invest in things that I love, that I'm passionate about. And so we're not as much like hardcore, like you have to invest in multifamily or you have to invest in single family. It's more like, here are all the different asset classes that investors buy, whether and how they create rental income, like, short-term rentals, midterm rentals, mobile home parks, you name it, we have it all on the show. So people can listen and they can say, oh, maybe this episode, I like what he's doing, but it's not for me. But maybe this episode where they're doing this, like, yes, this is what I want for my life. And so we want to create just a lot of information available so people can find out what they truly love, what they're passionate about. And then once they do, they can dive in, crazy deep in that topic by listening to all our other episodes on that same topic, or by reaching out to us and, having us help them connect them to a guest or do something to help them on their journey.
Amazing. Yeah. So you've been able to connect with incredible people all throughout the real estate space to kind of guide and lead agents to say, okay, this is how you sell real estate. We've had experience in that. We've done really well in that. And here's how to buy it. And here are people that can help you do so. And so how have you been able to help agents go from brand new to succeeding to the point where they have enough active income to now invest in real estate? What have kind of you done with your team and such to have success?
So that's a great question. And I think that obviously it presupposes that you have to have a certain amount of income to buy rental properties. So let's address it as if that is the case. And then let's talk about alternate strategy. Yeah. So one of the ways when we were growing a big team, now we've since gone smaller so we could focus on the podcast, but with the big team, we had a lot of lead gen. So we would pay for Facebook leads. We pay for a lot of these lead sources so that our agents had lots of leads to work with, taught them how to call to generate a lot of business, which got them to the six-figure or multiple six-figure mark. I was pretty good at creating an environment where an agent can go from new or, fairly new to like making 100 to 200,000 a year. Yeah. We were doing that fairly frequently. But what I noticed is that for a lot of agents, they would get to the 100 and 200,000 a year. And instead of going and buying investment properties, what they would do, even though we were like telling them, buy investment properties, they would go buy a $700,000 house because they now qualify. And I was like, not that I want them not to do that. If that's what you want, go for it. But it's like everybody usually gets to a place at some point in their real estate agent journey where they're like, I don't want to show houses anymore. At least I don't want to have to type of thing. So I've always been financially freedom and financially secure minded. So I'm like, let's quickly get you to the security so that you could choose your terms on. So I would say now when we educate, we don't educate them, hey, you got to get big incomes to buy properties and lots of savings. We just say, let's talk about the strategies that you could buy without money, like subject to creative financing, et cetera. So we've shifted a little bit more into helping people realize that there shouldn't be financial barriers to investing. It's really strategy and mindset are the barriers to investing.
Yeah. Putting in the work to find that deal that's going to work without having to have that income. So using seller financing, using subject to. And so what would you say for an agent that's going to be listening to this podcast, where to start or how to get into those type of deals where they don't have to have their own income? They can use creative financing to pull off deals.
So this can work anywhere. And so one of the things that's really helpful for a person if they're getting into this is to understand pricing in a market. So they can either know it themselves through a lot of study, or they can rely on professionals that they trust, appraisers, real estate agents that they know are very, very good at this, very experienced. Once you have a knowledge of this property can rent for, let's say, $2,000 a month on the normal market. They can rent for $4,000 or $5,000 a month in Airbnb, or $3,000 on short-term or mid-term rentals. So there's just a lot. Once you understand what a property can do, then you can go and make sense of an alternate strategy. So maybe someone wants to sell their house for $300,000 and you don't have the down payment. But you can buy it from the seller for $350,000 if they'll give it to you on some terms. And then you just make the payments. Let's say the payments are $2,000 a month. You Airbnb it for $4,000 a month and you can create some spread. And so this is just one of hundreds of examples of how you can structure a deal. But it's really about finding what we call the arbitrage, finding where a property is not being used at its highest value. So you could pay a little bit of a premium, use the property at its highest use, and create a difference both in income and in value.
Yeah, amazing. And that's the beautiful thing with real estate, if you understand it correctly, where even if you're overpaying in a sense for a property and there is arbitrage there from a rental standpoint, regardless of the strategy, it's going to appreciate. And that's the beautiful thing of buying a real estate is if you hang on to it long enough, it doesn't matter. And that's why having people like you in their corner and just a knowledgeable person that can walk them through the steps of being creative is super, super helpful. And so one thing I would love to hear from you is, do you have a recent deal or a student success story that you could break down and share kind of what it looked like, how the deal was structured, and give an example of really what opportunities are out there for people to kind of realize and see what can be possible?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I have clients that had zero real estate investing experience, when they started making the jump. Some of them were my clients here. I helped them buy a house. I was their real estate agent. And then they realized I invest as well, asked me questions. Then we helped them invest some money out of state. We have people that are buying properties for 50 to 100,000 out of state. They're renting for 1,000 to 2,000 a month. A lot of these are netting $500 to $1,000 a month. And so a lot of times when I make an offer on an investment property, I don't just make one offer like, hey, I will give you 40,000 cash or 80,000 cash. It's, I will give you X amount if it's cash. I can give you X or Y amount more. Like, so say 50,000 cash. I can give you 70,000 if there's a little bit of a loan here, or 100,000 if you sell or finance it to me.
Yeah.
I've helped negotiations where we've paid $100,000 to $200,000 more for a property than its market value. But the seller gave us 40 years of seller finance payments. And because it was a 40-year note and a 40-year amortization, there's $1,000 a month of spread between the cost of the PITI and what it can rent for. So it doesn't matter to me that I'm paying $150,000 too much. If you make the amortization long enough, the payment will make sense, and you can make rent arbitrage or payment arbitrage.
Yeah, incredible. And so in these situations, you're able to get into properties, I'm sure sometimes with no money. I mean, you're seller financing sometimes on a basis where you bring zero capital to the deal, get the seller to agree to that higher price point, seller finance it back to you, and you're now good to go because it's a win-win. The seller's saying, hey, I have no more liability with this property, but I'm getting paid on a monthly basis to give it to you. And most of the time, if you can structure a deal like that, it's a win-win for everybody. And so if you were to pick your favorite strategy that you've used or seen, what would that be? What's kind of your go-to bread and butter for yourself as well as others that you teach and talk about?
I just like new things. It's like I don't like to wake up and watch the same movie every single day of my life. For some people, that's their jam. Like for me, I like new things. One of the things that I do that's the same all the time is podcasting, because the conversation itself can be so different. And the insights you could pull are different. But in the idea of getting up and buying the same single family house in the same town, that to me just seems a little bit dreary. So I'd rather buy something over in this state and then another asset class over in this state. And you pay for that because you have to the learning curve is big. But the overall benefit is you learn a lot about a lot of things. You have a lot of great experiences. So would we get better returns if we were a little bit more narrow? Yes. But it's kind of like I get to have a lot of different experiences.
Yeah, I'm sure you are versed in pretty much everything, and that's why your podcast is so valuable, is because you talk about everything. And there's so many, because you have, I mean, how many episodes are you at? You're hundreds deep, correct?
Hundreds, yeah. It's weird. I don't look at the spreadsheet enough. We have uploaded over 200 episodes now, and we probably have another 50 to 100 recorded. So I would say approximately 250 episodes. We started recording 10 months ago.
Holy cow, just cranking those out. And so this has become your main focus, podcasting. And tell me a little bit behind that. What's the motivation? Is it just passion? Is it to spread awareness? Kind of what's the reason for cranking so many episodes out?
Multi-purposes. And so depending on how much you want me to pull back the veil behind the curtain, so to speak. So the front end purpose is it could provide a lot of impact. And so we can give a lot of information away to a lot of people. So anybody that goes on the journey with us and listens, they get 1 to 2 per day with us. And they could decipher from the titles and what's in it, what information will be helpful for them. So, a lot of times when they say, when you start a podcast, every episode you put out, you put a request on your guests. We're a little bit different in the sense we're going to put out so many, we know it would be impractical for our guests to listen to everything. So we say, hey, if the title resonates with you, watch that episode, and so that's step one. The other thing is, for me, the enjoyment of being able to learn nonstop is amazing. And we get people on here that teach me things that it would take me a lot longer to learn if I had to find out exactly what the right book is, where in the book. By being the interviewer during the show and after the show, I get to ask specific questions that save me so much time in my journey to success. And then there's the elements of the network that happens afterwards. In less than a year, we went from not having had a single guest to where we're interviewing people that have connections to people like Elon Musk. We've interviewed some people that are on TV. it's evolving pretty quickly. And so,
Yeah.
I've gotten to fly to different parts of the world to partake in events that I would have never been invited to. I got invited into a networking group of a couple people that focus on podcasts that I had no business being in. And so it's been really, really fun. I feel like I get to live the experiences that I want to live. And then you talk about the value of the network. And this is something that's so crazy because the value, the net worth of everybody that we've interviewed, if you add up their net worth, is well over $1 billion. Yeah. And this is in 1 year. Now, not that's everybody that we interviewed would take the shirt off their back for us, but most would answer our phone calls. And so it's like, what happens if we do this for 10 years and our network is 10 billion or 100 billion or whatever this amounts to? What does that look like as far as, what we can do? We're connecting a deal right now. If it goes together, it's a 7-figure deal. The person that we're connecting makes 7 figures. The person we're connecting them to makes 7 figures. And as a result, we will probably make deep 6 or 7 figures on the deal just for making connections. So like I can go hours on this topic alone about what's possible if you go into a relationship-based thing like what we're doing. But suffice it to say, it's a passion of ours.
Amazing. Yeah. So that's the beautiful thing with not only the career of being a real estate agent, it's 100% relationship based, but podcasting, that's the network building like golden standard. You are able to meet and talk to people about their lives, about their experiences, about their knowledge in such an in-depth and cool method that it's so easy to share with others. And that's what's super exciting. And so to go a little bit deeper into your podcast and kind of the episodes you're having, what is your goal there? What, like, obviously I know you're saying, what if we do this for 10 years? Where do you want to take it? What's kind of the vision?
Yeah. So the main vision is I just want to love what I do, and I want to do it with everything I've got. And so like one of the guys I've interviewed, Shane McGraw, he pointed out his cadre concept. And in that, he has got this page, and I love this Venn diagram. And it's like, what are you good at? What will the world pay you for? What does the world need? And what are you passionate about? And so when you could get in the center of that, where, hey, I'm good at this thing, I'm passionate about it, the world needs it, and I get paid for it, like that's when like all the fireworks happen, the magic happens. And so for me, I don't want to lose any one of those things. I don't want to do something solely for the passion, solely for the money, or et cetera. And so, but I would say I've done a lot of things because it helped my family financially. Now I'm a little bit more like, if I'm going to err on the side of anything, it's going to be erring on the side of passion. And so when I get up every day, have conversations, I'm a happy person. I come home happy. I come home energetic. I have energy throughout the day. So that's probably like the main focus is, where do I light up? Where does my energy like explode? And I stay in those zones. But like thinking about the 10-year vision, what happens if I do this all day for 10 years? Like I think number one, our goal is to put out the most episodes of any podcaster in human history. And so that would be an activity goal. Yeah. Now, what are we going to talk about? Likely we'll talk about real estate investing for a very, very long time. But at some point, if for whatever reason I'm like, hey, I've exhausted every angle of every topic that I enjoy about real estate investing, we'll talk about, basket weaving or who knows. Yeah. But, I love human psychology. I love marketing. I love sales. I love investing. All those are business building. I love business itself. So I could easily see segmenting down the road and adding. But we definitely want to make sure that anybody that has a desire to become financially independent or financially free has the ability to do it for free off of our content.
That's amazing. I mean, you're creating a platform for one, you're supercharging the front end of like, here are the episodes. If you listen to these, you will 100% know how to make money in real estate and become financially free if you put in the work and are willing to take the risk. And then on the back end, you're like, from that, we're going to talk even more in depth of how to build a fulfilling life, how to find enjoyment in these passions and stuff like that. And so one thing I like that you said is your passion for psychology and just the mindset behind the everyday life. And so what I want to ask you is, what does it take from a human psychology standpoint to succeed in real estate investing? And what's your kind of standpoint on what's the point of life? What are passions for, and why is human psychology so important?
Yeah. Oh man. Like we
Deep
could open
question.
Pandora. Yeah, we could have open Pandora's box here. So I think that the way that we operate as human beings is that we all have a certain way that we look at the world. And there's a certain way that each of our brains works individually and uniquely. So certain things become super easy for us, and other things are like incredibly challenging. And certain things are really fun and other things are not. And so I think what psychology does, and maybe we'll call it self-awareness in this case, is it allows us to quickly get to what am I uniquely gifted to do, and what things do I really enjoy, and what things are both. So the action of going and reflecting on your day, like every single day, like just have a journal. What did I do today? What did I love about the day? What did I not love? How did I feel? Where did I feel the most energy? So if you go through that process of documenting, you start to realize, oh, I was happy about 20% of my day. And then if you document it over a couple months, you start to see all of the patterns. And then you could say, how can I take the thing that's making me happy part of the day, and how can I double that and so on and so forth until your whole day becomes something incredible. So I would say the number one thing I love about psychology is it makes the ability for people to live very, very high energy, passionate, like fulfilling lives. And the second thing is, once you're in that zone, the chance that you're going to be successful is like 1,000 times greater, because you're going to show up differently. Like what does it take to succeed in almost any field? Just consistency and intention, right? Time on task. So are you going to be on time? Are you going to be on task if you're passionate? Well, of course you are. You're going to bring a greater level of focus and awareness. And so that's really the thing, is finding those sweet spots and then figuring out how do we match the sweet spot with the thing that needs to be accomplished. Yeah. What needs to get hired out? Big believer in who, not how in these things. I interviewed a guy named Michael Gebben recently. He had brain scans done. He was talking about what he called BDAs and BAAs, brain deactivating activities, brain activating activities. Certain activities in some minds create resistance and shut people down. In other people, it turns them on and they run wild. So I think when we're hitting some piece of advice right away is, if you're hitting the wall constantly, your brain's being deactivated. Yes, later on down the road, we can focus on character and battle through it. But if you can get 80% of your day focused on the things you're naturally wired, you'll be so successful that either you could pay a mind coach to try and get you over it later, or you could just hire it out and stay 80 to 100% in things you love to do.
Yeah, amazing. And I personally, I've talked about this before. If you're aware of it, the 5 a.m. Club, the book, that book encompasses pretty much what you're talking about, where it's like, if you can get your mind down and your day down to the point where you're being grateful and truly seeking the passions and your full potential in life, your success is inevitable. And that's why, like, I love the success stories of entrepreneurs and billionaires, because majority of the time it's them being like, yeah, I woke up at 4 a.m. in the morning and was grinding every single day of my life because I had this inner like drive and motivation to just make it happen. And I try to mimic my life after that. And I think the exciting thing with what you're doing is just providing that mode for people of like, hey, here's the mindset part of it, here's the real estate part of it, and we're going to talk about it and bring guests on to pretty much give you the secret sauce to make it happen. And so thank you for hopping on this episode. To finish up, I want to ask you one last question regarding your upcoming episodes and kind of your upcoming goals. I know it's a huge statement to say you're going to have the most recorded episodes of any podcast out there. That's massive. What episodes should people look for, and what episodes are you excited about that you're going to be having soon?
Yeah, I really get excited about the episodes where I feel like we uncover something in the episode. Like there's been some episodes where we've really discovered some really, I think, really cool thoughts about, like, say, the relationship between ego and humility, where we discover things like that. That's where I get really like internally excited. But people they all have their own reasons for why they might want to listen. If it's strategies, I would say focus on the episodes where we interview six-figure agents and they go through their strategies. So we have some episodes that are more dedicated to the how-to. So if that's what you're looking for, but I would say the episodes that I enjoy the most are the ones where I feel like we unlock something, where the interview itself kind of takes on a form. We just interviewed Jay Scott, who just raised $30 million for syndications. He talks about how he breaks things down to make them simple, and we go fairly in depth into that. And that was like a really, really fun conversation. And so while I get nerves sometimes interviewing, some, we'll say more well-known guests, I think the episodes that I feel like we've unpacked something, like we've had this discussion where we've wrestled together and we've uncovered some truth, those are the ones that are like the most meaningful to me as an interviewer.
Cool. That's awesome. I'm excited to tune in as well as have other people do so as well. And so, Matt, where can people find and listen to your podcast, to your information? What's the go-to place?
Yeah, so Freedom Chasers Podcast is, if you search that on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, it'll show up. I do have a link tree that I can send you that can give a full directory. I would say as far as socials go, I have an Instagram, but Facebook is my platform. I'm kind of a dinosaur in that way. So if people want to like message me or follow me on Facebook, that's where I put more content out than anything else. So Facebook, and then of course the podcast is Freedom Chasers Podcast on all the platforms.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks again, Matt, and we'll catch you in the next episode of the Real Estate Agent School.
Thanks, Cameron.